Alexander Allan Milne, The Red House Mystery. Chapter 1. Mrs. Stevens is frightened. In the drowsy heat of a summer afternoon, the Red House was taking its siesta. There was a lazy murmur of bees in the flower borders, a gentle cooing of pigeons in the tops of the elms. From distant lawns came the whir of a mowing machine, that most restful of all country sounds, making ease the sweeter in that it is taking while lovers are walking. It was the hour when even those whose business it is to attend to the wants of others have a moment or two for themselves. In the housekeeper's room, Audrey Stevens, the pretty parlour maid, reclined her best head and talked oddly to her aunt, the cook-housekeeper of Mr. Mark Ablett's bachelor home. "For Joe?" said Mrs. Stevens placidly, her eye on her head. Audrey nodded. She took a pin from her mouth, found a place in her head for it, and said, "He likes a bit of pink." "I don't say I mind a bit of pink myself," said her aunt. "Joe Turner isn't the only one." "It isn't everybody's color," said Audrey, holding the head out at arm's length and regarding it thoughtfully. "Stylish, isn't it? Oh, it'll suit you all right, and it would have suited me at your age. A bit too dressy for me now, though wearing better than some other people, I dare say. I was never the one to pretend to be what I wasn't. If I'm 55, I'm 55, that's what I say. 58, isn't it, Auntie?" "I was just giving that as an example," said Mrs. Stevens with great dignity. Audrey freed the needle, held her hand out, and looked at her nails critically for a moment, and then began to sew. "Funny thing that about Mr. Mark's brother. Fancy not seeing your brother for 15 years. Fancy not seeing your brother for 15 years. She gave a self-conscious laugh and went on. "Wonder what I should do if I didn't see Joe for 15 years. As I told you all this morning," said her aunt, "I've been here 5 years and never heard of a brother. I could say that before everybody if I was going to die tomorrow. There's been no brother here while I've been here. There's been no brother here while I've been here. You could have knocked me down with a fever when he spoke about him at breakfast this morning. I didn't hear what went before, naturally, but they was all talking about the brother when I went in. Now, what was it I went in for? For hot milk, was it? Or toast? Well, they was all talking. And Mr. Marks turns to me and says, you know his way, "Stevens," he says, "my brother is coming to see me this afternoon," he says. I'm expecting him about 3. Show him into the office," he says, just like that. "Yes, sir," I says quite quietly, Yes, sir, I says quite quietly, but I was never so surprised in my life, not knowing he had a brother. "My brother from Australia," he says. There, I'd forgotten that. From Australia. "Well, he may have been in Australia," said Mrs. Stevens judically. "I can't say for that, not knowing the country, but what I do say is he's never been here. And that's 5 years. And that's 5 years. Well, but Auntie, he hasn't been here for 15 years. I heard Mr. Mark telling Mr. Cayley. 15 years, he says. 15 years, he says. Mr. Cayley having asked him when his brother was last in England. Mr. Cayley knew of him. I heard him telling Mr. Beverley, but didn't know when he was last in England. So, so that's why he asked Mr. Mark. I don't say anything about 15 years, Audrey. I can only speak for what I know, and that's 5 years Whitsuntide. I can take my oath he's not set foot in the house since 5 years Whitsuntide. And if he's been in Australia, as you say, well, I dare say he's had his reasons. What reasons? Said Audrey lightly. What reasons? Said Audrey lightly. Never mind what reasons. If a gentleman goes to Australia, he has his reasons. And when he stays in Australia 15 years, as Mr. Mark says, and as I know for myself for 5 years, he has his reasons. Got into respectably brought up girl doesn't ask what reasons. Got into trouble, I suppose, said Audrey carelessly. They were saying at breakfast he'd been a wild one. Debts. I'm glad Joe isn't like that. He's got £15 in a post office savings bank. Did I tell you? So.